Hello, my name is Lydia and today we're going to be talking to Andrea, who is a Muslim convert, mashallah. We're going to be here today in Watford at her beautiful home, discussing her journey to Islam, how she came to it, any controversies she's faced. So, shall we go inside? Okay, let's go. Mashallah, it's a beautiful house. I hope they're in. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Andrea. It's nice to meet you. My name is Lydia. Thank you.
Please come in.
Thank you.
How was your trip?
It was perfect, thank you. Very easy.
Did you find it okay?
Yeah, it was very easy, thank you.
Oh, please take a seat.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much for inviting us to your house today.
You're welcome.
It's lovely to be here. It's a beautiful home. I was just wondering if we could maybe start discussing your journey to Islam, how it all started, what your route was to Islam.
Well, I grew up in Stuttgart in Germany, and there is a big part of the population is Turkish, so I think Islam in a way has always been around me since I was a child, not necessarily in a positive way, because a lot of the Turks are coming into Germany from kind of very rural areas, and then they end up in a different country, in a different culture, in a city, and that has its own problems. But I started studying to become a teacher, and one of the subjects I studied was PE, sports. And so I had very close contact very quickly with a lot of Turkish parents who came into school and told me that their girls weren't allowed to do sports in schools, and I often felt I couldn't say anything to them really because my Islamic knowledge was not really existent, and I felt that I needed to do something. And then as part of my studies I came over to England and studied in Norwich, and that was during the First World War, and we were very mixed culturally, a very mixed group of friends there. And again I felt when grouping around the television watching things that the input the Muslim friends had, that I couldn't really give them good answers back or discuss it with them because I just realized I had very, very little knowledge of Islam. So my interest in Islam actually started out of the feeling that I didn't know much about a topic I should know about, so just that I can discuss it with parents or with other students. And I started reading up, and one of the people in that group of friends was my now husband.
Okay.
So he was very happy to supply me with, material, reading materials, book tips, and gave me a Quran fairly quickly as well, and said, look, if you want to read something, that's where you should really start. Then I went back home and decided to write my dissertation about Muslim girls in the German PE system. Obviously I had to do an extensive amount of research for that. So that's how it all started.
Wow, that's incredible. So it was quite a long journey for you, obviously, from when you were a child. So what about the exact moment where you thought, okay, maybe this is my faith? How did that happen?
I'm not sure if there was an exact moment, because there were so many different strands to it, and then I kept in contact with my friends here in England. Some of them were Muslim, and I kept coming back to visit the department and the friends. And I think it was mainly just, those friends being very good examples for me and being very open-minded and, never asking me to convert, but just actually wanting to feed my interest to accumulate knowledge. And that really helped. And at some point, I think my husband and I, we realized that we liked each other more than just friends. And obviously there was this question, if that is where we want to head for, how do we work around our different backgrounds, religiously as well as culturally? So at some point I knew that if I did want to marry him, I would need to consider if converting to Islam would be a path. I would consider, and not just convert for converting's sake, but because I could really live it. So I actually don't think there was one point. It was just, a natural progression. And I think in a way because, I never been drinking alcohol, really. I always dressed reasonably modestly for Western standards. I think you know, the conversion with regards to my outside being wasn't such a huge step. It just, all that felt right. I actually felt, wow, you know, I'll have a husband who doesn't want to go to the pub and drink. And, you know, my children won't grow up with people drinking in their house. And
I was completely the same, so I can completely empathise on
that.
Yeah,
so a lot of it was just seemed natural and just seemed right. And, you know, I'm not from a religious background. I was born a Christian. I grew up in a Protestant house, but my father was an atheist.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I was actually confirmed, but when I was confirmed, there were things, I never really understood the Trinity.
Yeah.
You know, I always thought, why does it have to be split up in three? You know, when I had to kind of give my statement of faith in my conversion, I actually didn't say the bit where it says, I believe in the Protestant church.
Really?
And I was wondering for years afterwards if I was actually confirmed. So I think that there were already things where I thought, well, I don't really fit into this other system.
Yeah.
And with Islam, they just, you know, seemed to fit naturally.
Yeah. So as far as your actual conversion goes, like, where did it happen? How long ago was it? Could you tell us a bit more about
I converted, we met, I mean, I went to university in 1991, and that's when I met my husband, and I converted in 1993 in Germany, more or less by myself, you know, I knew how to do it by then. And so that was kind of my private conversion. Obviously later I had to do it with, again, with two witnesses. And, you know, for me, it's always been a very private affair because the pressure that comes from outside, I noticed as soon as you say you've converted, is huge because people don't give you the time to go on the journey. They have their preconceptions and they want you to be there. And, you know, I knew I needed to do it full-heartedly, and I knew as well I wanted to do it at the speed I wanted to do it and can do it.
Yeah. I think it's very important for other people to realise that Islam, you don't convert and then immediately you are praying 5 times a day, you can recite Quran. It's really important to know that it is a long process.
Yes, and some things you might take on board full on, like I prayed quite quickly 5 times a day because I felt that is something, you know, I can do after I'd learned the moves and, you know, the few surahs you need to be able to pray. But then there are other things I still don't do after over 20 years. And either because I feel they don't sit well with me, or I actually feel I don't need to do them in the environment I live in.
Yeah, so it's like it says in the Quran, there is no compulsion in religion. Like it is a religion of moderation. I think that's something that we need to get across, especially as converts. Is that
yes, and obviously, you know, one of the biggest issue is always the hijab. I don't wear hijab, but I feel very comfortable wearing it if I go to the mosque or like when we met the other day, you know, functions that happen in the mosque. And I think it's for me, it's you need to dress modestly, and in a Western environment here, if I dress modestly, for me personally, that kind of ticks the box.
Exactly.
You know, if I go like this to Saudi Arabia, it wouldn't be considered modest, so the rules would be slightly different.
So it's more to do with the culture and the environment as well.
That, and as well, you know, I have a Western family who's been, I'd say, semi-acceptant about it. And I feel it is as well my duty to respect their feelings and our relationship and the relationship they have with my children. And I know my mother would be horrified if I turn up in a hijab.
Yeah, it's quite a shock for most people.
So, you know, I think you need to weigh up. If it's really important for you, then yes, I think you should do it and need to do it despite what maybe family members say. But you know, I do think it's just part of humanity that you take your parents' you know, feelings into consideration as well, even if they are not Muslims.
Definitely, and modesty as well. It's not just about the head covering, it's about who you are as a person as well.
Yes,
so you don't need to wear that. Exactly.
You know, I think it's a balance that needs to be right.
Exactly.
For everybody.
So you said like your family, they are semi-accepting of Islam now. What about when you initially converted? Did you face any sort of hardships or any?
Well, my father, as I said, was an atheist, but he was as well very pragmatic, and he said to me, basically, I like fiqh, I don't know why you're doing this rubbish, you know, but for me, as long as you don't change totally, that's fine with me. You need to live with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was it for him. And I think he watched it for a while, sat back, and then he was satisfied that, you know, I hadn't joined some wild sect that turned me into someone totally different. Yeah. I think with my mother, it's a bit more complicated. I think even after 20 years, she struggles with something. And I think she's very influenced by what you read in the press. Yeah. And maybe she was more fearful for my well-being as well, and that of my children, because obviously I didn't just convert, I married into a big Pakistani clan. You know, I mean, if we meet, there's like 85 people in one go. Yeah. It's not really how Western families usually interact, celebrate. You know, 85 people bring a lot of problems, issues, you know, constant having to be there. And I think all that was feeding into it for her. And, you know, even yet now during Ramadan, she doesn't agree with fasting because you don't drink. You know.
Yeah, that is the biggest problem for most people.
And and so, you know, I think it's difficult for her, but alhamdulillah, she, you know, she's accommodating us up to a level that, you know, when we go home, I buy the meat and then she cooks the halal meat. And yeah, you know, so she's not making it difficult for us, but I think she's struggling sometimes to just feel relaxed with it.
So how do you, as a woman, obviously in Islam, do you do a lot of dawah? Do you sort of spread the word the way your friends did, sort of through offering your opinions, not necessarily forcing them upon other people?
I think I never hide my Islam. I mean, obviously, if I was wearing hijab, you know, that would be a more obvious statement. But, you know, I think pretty much everyone around me who I'm in regular contact with knows we are a Muslim household, and usually people pick up on it very quickly because you know, you don't drink or you're invited and you say, well, I can eat meat, but it needs to be halal. And, you know, like yesterday we had all the neighbors around for iftar. So I think people are very aware that we're a Muslim family, and I hope they just learn from our conduct, or you know, and for me it's not, if someone is meant to convert, they will. Exactly. You know, because for me it was, if I'm honest, it was the major only thing in my life I always say I hadn't been looking for. I was happy in Germany, I was happy in the life I had there. I was actually in a relationship back then. Yeah. You know, I never thought my life would take me here, and I never thought I would convert. It's definitely was not what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for another religion. It just, you know, I didn't feel lost at the time. Yeah. I felt very settled and grounded. You know, I was studying, I was doing something I was enjoying.
So it's just a natural progression for you. It wasn't.
Yes, and it really caught me by surprise in a way.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't looking for that cultural mix either. Yeah. So exactly. You know, I'm convinced that if someone is at that point where they're ready, they will meet the people that in the end kind of switch that switch. And if we can be those people for someone, that's great. But I know as well that if you're not a lost sheep, if you're quite settled and strong, and someone comes and tries to push it on you, it does exactly the opposite.
Exactly. So obviously your conversion has taken you through, obviously, September 11, which was a turning point, I think, for all Muslims, we can say that. So from before, the people that knew you were Muslim before, did you face any controversies with them? Maybe not accepting you ever since then, or?
I think, again, because I don't stick out in the crowd, you know, I obviously have an easier life there. And I think the people we group around us, they, you know, take us for the people we are. And, you know, everyone was discussing 9/11. So were we. Yeah. So. You know, so I don't think we had big changes there. I think one change was going through airports with a husband and 2 children who look more Asian. You know, I mean, Fidar definitely gets searched more. Yeah, definitely. And has to turn his pockets inside out. But to be honest, I don't have a problem with that. I prefer if they do that. Yeah. You know, because we all want to be safe. And if that's the only hardship, that they check a bit harder, that now we all have to take our shoes off and our belts off when we get to the airport, then
it's not a sacrifice.
That is fine with me. And you know, unfortunately, there are crazy people around and people who are out to hurt someone else in the name of Islam. And,
so what would you give as advice to maybe somebody who is looking into Islam, or maybe who is just searching maybe for a religion? Like, what would you advise them to do? I
think like with anything you research as a new topic, you need to take your time and you need to be prepared that often you go in a direction which you then think this is actually not for me, and not to give up, but to look for the right people. And you know, I mean, I felt really, really encouraged after the function at the mosque the other day, that things are changing, because you know, my Islam has become very private, because when 20 years ago, when I went out to mosques or even to other people's houses where there was super strict segregation, that I felt that wasn't for me. And now I can see, you know, there are different things. There's like Living Islam in summer, big kind of camp with lectures and everything. There is the Muslim Institute in Markfield. There's like Regent's Park Mosque now, who are very open for converts. And you know, that is great, because hopefully people can go and get the advice that gives them enough space to develop into their Islam, rather than being constantly told that what they do is wrong and that they should do it this way and that way, which in the end puts you off. So I think perseverance and just trying to find your good friends, you know, and not every Muslim you meet needs to be your friend. You find, like in any life, you try to find the people you can develop with at the speed you want to.
For you. So then, on sort of another topic, what would you say to maybe those who are not against Islam, but that are resistant to it? Because obviously they may say, "Oh, you're crazy for converting. Why would you choose this religion?" Like, what do you think are the most important core values of Islam that maybe people overlook because of the media?
Well, I think first of all, I would say not everyone born into any religion, you know, practices the religion in the right way and is a good person. And I think when you go back in history and when Islam started, there are a lot of examples that show that it was, you know, meant to be a religion for everybody, no matter from what culture or what background, and a religion of huge compassion. And that we all, you know, as Muslims and as just human beings, need to work on that. And for me, it's always, if it's harmful to another person, then the rules can't be the right ones. Then there is either misinterpretation in play, or you just need to look for another answer. So I think, you know, you need to go with your heart, and if you're a good human being, you will try to create a nice, loving environment around you. And for me, you know, Islam is a very, very good way of doing that. It's very family orientated. You know, it gives a lot of respect to older people and to the children as well, in a very loving way. And you know, everything that is against that as well, you know, all the hardcore segregation where all at once families can't do anything again as family anymore. For me, that can't really be the heart of the matter.
So it's more cultural. Half the time the problems are more cultural than religious.
I think a lot of them are cultural, but obviously, you know, everyone brings their culture. I mean, I bring my German culture into my Islam. But I think generally it's just, you know, it needs to work for the people that are in that family or in that group of people around you. And if it starts separating them or you know, alienating them, if people fall out over you know, how you do your ablutions or something like that, then I think they're focusing on the wrong thing. You know, it needs to be something, and any religion should be something that brings people together. And again, I think only if you could give a good example, and a good example is an inclusive example, can you encourage other people. You know,
it's important not to lose yourself.
To go along the same path.
Of course, Okay, so in terms of like your household, have you found any differences in maybe the way that you have to live? Any changes in your housekeeping routine?
I think with regards to the housekeeping, there isn't much that is different, because I think, again, like we said before, you know, cultural things play into what you do, and I think I still, you know, I'm very interested in healthy eating, which is much more an interest of mine than it is in the rest of the family I've married into. So I think we just, you know, we try to eat healthily. We try to eat as a family as often as possible, but that's not exclusive to Muslims. I just think that is important. Obviously, what has changed in the household is that, you know, we don't want to have alcohol in the house. Of course, so, like yesterday, we invited all the neighbors around. You know, you need to let them know. Amani, just put it in the sink, please. You need to let them know that they will come to a dinner where they will be drinking water and juice. But usually, you know, as soon as people come a second time, they know that you don't want them to bring a bottle of wine and things. So there are certain things that change, but the people you socialize with a lot, they pick up on it very quickly, and it's usually not a problem. And I think the people who have a problem are not the ones that then become your close friends.
Yeah, of course. People that mind don't matter, and people that matter don't mind. Isn't that what they say?
Exactly. And obviously at the moment with Ramadan, the routine has changed,
of course,
drastically, with having to get up early in the morning for breakfast.
So in terms of like your family life, what do you think Islam has taught us? Maybe like how to teach your children, how to bring them up. What really have you implemented in your daily lives?
I think it's just supporting, you know, what I thought is the right thing anyway. That you treat them with a lot of respect.
We're minding the fingers.
Easier if you had taken the skin off first while the meat was still on the mango.
Yeah, well, I've never made this. I've never done mango.
Well, why don't you cut it the way we usually eat it? And then you can eat it off the skin when you break your fast. Because usually you cut it like this, and then...
Oh, well, now I've taken the skin off, I may as well carry on.
We break our fast with a date and some water, and then we have some fruit salad, so that will be nice for tonight.
Well, thank you so much for having me here today. It was incredible to get your opinion on everything, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. And thank you for opening up your home to your beautiful family. It's incredible.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.